Alright guys, so today I am going to talk to you a little bit about eyeshadow basics. I know a lot of times there's so many tutorials on like how to get a certain eyeshadow look and things like that, and then sometimes I know people struggle with applying that to their own eyes and how to make that look the best with their own eyes and how to kind of tailor that and make it their own. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about just like tips and tricks and just a little bit of information if you're interested in kind of finding out more or less, you know, the various essentials. So these are just some guidelines that I think will help. They're not necessarily hard rules. Obviously, makeup is more of an art, so you can tweak it. These are just some of the basics. If you feel like you're completely lost, this is a good place to start at. So when I first started learning makeup, I think the thing that helped me the most, especially when working with other people, because I'm used to my eyes, my skin tone, and that's pretty much it. I had no other experience. So I think the thing that helped me the most was looking at a color wheel. So I think if you start there, you can kind of build at least like more of a color theory behind applying the right eyeshadows and what will look the best on you. So you can just Google color wheel and look at any of the images that come up. So this is what comes up on my phone, if you can see it. If you're trying to figure out what's going to make your eyes stand out the most, you want to look at whatever color your eye is on the color wheel, and the color directly across from that is going to make your eyes pop the most because they're complementary colors. So basically, if you have, let's say, blue eyes, if you look over here in the blue, I don't know if you guys can see that, in the blue area, directly across from that are the orange colors. So when you're putting on eyeshadow for blue eyes, the things that is going to make blue eyes stand out and make them pop the most is putting more of like copper colors and orangey colors, and that's what's going to make them stand out the most. And same thing, if you look at what's directly across from green eyes, that is more purple colors. So purples are going to make green eyes stand out the most. And I'm not saying if you have blue eyes you can't wear blue eyeshadow, you still can. If you have brown eyes, it's kind of nice because you can kind of, it's good and bad. Your eyes obviously aren't going to be as like crazy blue as someone with blue eyes. They're not going to pop like that. But, you can pretty much use any color and it'll still work with your eyes. Same rules still apply. So my eyes, even though they're brown, they have a very warm amber reddish undertone to them. So they're very warm in their colors. So cool toned colors look the best and make my eyes pop the most. So especially like blues and purples, that makes the red and amber in them stand out a lot more than me wearing warm colors. And then if you're also confused about warm versus cool colors, my color wheel literally has like a line and it tells you warm and cool. So I feel like it's kind of obvious, like warm and cool in my head, but if you're struggling with that, Google's good for everything. Now for applying eyeshadow. So basically, I always say you want to put lightest on the inner and work your way out to the darkest on the outer corner. And that's going to give you that dimension to your eye that is the most flattering. If you put dark colors more in the closer to the center, in the inner corner of your eye, that's the word I was looking for, it's kind of going to weigh it down a little bit more. So pretty much you want to apply all the light colors on the inside, the lightest that's going to highlight it, that's going to make it stand out and make you look more awake. You want to put the darker colors more towards the outer edge, and that's going to kind of bring that back and give you that dimension of your eye going like back in and giving you that depth to it. The dark color, I find that you want to keep it as low to the lash line as possible and kind of make it a gradient out. You don't want to be starting by putting any dark up on the upper portion of your eyelid. Now, typically for eyeshadow, you want to do the light color. You can do like shimmery and things like that. This isn't always the case, but for the darker color, you want to make sure it's more of a matte color. If you go in with any sort of shimmer or sparkle color, that's gonna still give you a little bit of a highlight effect and kind of mess with the dimension that you're trying to create, because you're basically trying to create a shadow that goes inwards. So if you're putting like specks of sparkle in and they reflect that, you're taking away from that depth. So it's not gonna look as uniform and as natural as a matte shade would. Actually, when starting on my tutorials, I start with a transition color. And what that is basically a color that's similar to my skin tone. And what that's gonna do is, just because the powder products, just to make them blend a little bit easier. And that typically I start by applying in my crease. Now your crease is different for everyone. My crease falls where my eyelid actually creases, if that makes sense. Some people's eyelids kind of come down a little bit more, but their eye crease, where their eye bone actually goes in, you can kind of feel like the socket of your eye. That's what I consider the crease. So even if your skin of your eye comes down further, your crease still technically, to me, is above that. Wherever your eye socket is, wherever your eye goes in, that's what the crease is. So to get your eyeshadow to look natural and keep that, I think people are always afraid of looking like they got punched in the eye or like they have raccoon eyes. Two of the biggest things I think is they always get caught when applying like a darker color, because that's where it gets a little bit trickier, and they always get caught with blending. So never want to start by putting the dark eyeshadow up at the top. You want to always start pretty much right down by your lashes, and then kind of work it out from there and blend it out from there. The other thing is blending. You really pretty much always want to be blending out your eyeshadows. You don't want any like harsh lines, because that's going to look very unnatural and kind of give you more of like a unfinished and unpolished look. Pretty much for any like daytime, anything like that, you want to be blending out your eyeshadow. So I am going to talk about brushes a little bit. So I'm going to try to go through like my essentials here. Okay, so I have basically 5 brushes that I would say are pretty essential to applying color. They don't have to be these exact brushes, but the concepts behind how the brush is formed is very helpful. For applying my lid color, which is the color that's going to be all over the lower portion of my lid, so pretty much your light color, you really want to have something dense, because you're going to be kind of packing on the pigment. So the more dense the brush is, the more pigment you're going to be able to apply. The wider and fluffier, you're going to be able to spread that pigment around and kind of blend it out. For my lid color, something like this that's just pretty short and flat. And basically that's just going to help you place the shadow where you want it. Next brush, I would say that's very important, is just a big fluffy brush. So this, like I said, is just going to help blend out anything. So pretty much anytime I put a color on, especially any sort of dark color, I always go in and go over it with this. That's just really fluffy, really good for just moving it around, blending it out, and softening it. Then I have a brush that's in between those two. So basically, so confusing. So it's fluffy, but at the edge it's kind of tapered upwards, so it's more dense. So it's kind of, it's still a blending brush, but it's gonna keep it more concentrated on where I want it to be. This one looks like this, and you can kind of see how it's more tapered on the top, and a little bit fluffy still, but it still comes up and tapers up at the top. So this one I really love for in my crease applying that, because that's going to keep it in place there but still blend it out. And this also, any white hair usually is a natural haired brush. So the natural hair versus synthetic, so those are the kind of two that you're working with. Natural hair applies pigment not as strongly as a synthetic brush will, so it's best if you're trying to do something softer. It's just going to help in blending that out a little bit better and not making it putting too much on that it's too hard to blend out. The other one that I'm going to talk about is similar to the last one I just talked about. It is a sort of dome shaped brush, so it kind of looks like this. So this is a synthetic hair brush, which deposits more color. So this one I like to take right before I kind of go in with the natural hair brush. Before I go in and blend it out, I like to place the pigment with this one right down on my outer crease there where I want the dark color. So this is going to place the pigment, and this is going to blend in that crease a little bit more, and then this one's going to blend it up even more. So it's kind of working your way up and out. And then the last one I want to talk about is more for precision with liner and lining your eyes. So this is just a very, very flat, very thin synthetic brush. So it looks like this. Nice, especially for underneath your eye, because you don't want to be blending anything usually down too far. So this is good for just kind of working it right up into your lashes there, and also in the top, working it down there. Whew, I feel like winded. Need to like take deep breaths. So yeah, I think that covered most of what I was trying to talk about. Sure, I'll think of something else that I forgot. So yeah, I hope if you're kind of new to applying makeup and like new to trying to understand what's going to look best on you and how to kind of create something for your eye shape, that this video helps a little bit for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.